If you're living in a country like the UK or the US and for a multitude of reasons you're not happy with your life or your situation in those countries, whatever those factors may be, you may be inclined to look to move abroad and see it as the solution to your problems. But let me tell you, as someone who's been living abroad now for the last 8 years or so, that moving abroad is not always the answer to your problems. In this video, I'm going to tell you about how moving abroad can change your life, change your circumstances, and make things better. But I'm also going to clear up some maybe misconceptions or thoughts that you may be having and explain why it's not the solution to all of your problems. Let's get right into it. If you're new here, my name's Jonny. I'm originally from the UK, but I've been living and working in Spain for the past 5.5 years. On this channel, I talk a lot about life here, about the practical aspects, personal finance aspects, saving and investing money, and I share a lot of my travels around the world as well. So let's start with the things that it can change. So environmental factors, definitely. As I said, I'm originally from the UK. I now live in Spain. So moving here, of course, an instant change that I experienced for the better was, of course, things like the weather, the way of life. You know, more hours of sunlight, warmer temperatures, milder winters, things like this. These all have positively impacted my well-being, and this is definitely something that moving abroad has changed in my life for the better. Also, economic factors, things like the cost of living. You know, the cost of living in Spain is generally a lot lower than the UK. It's going up, and I've got another video coming out about that soon, so keep an eye out for that. But living in a country where the cost of living is different from your home country, now there's maybe a caveat that needs to be added here, is that of course if your income is linked to the local economy or you're earning locally, then you may not see that much of a difference. But if you're earning money from outside the country, then of course that's a factor that can, you know, change your cost of living, and it can have an impact, a positive impact on your personal financial situation. Things like taxes as well. This can obviously change your circumstances as well. Moving between the UK and Spain, it's probably not going to have a drastic impact on you in that respect. But of course, if you're thinking about, I don't know, moving to a country like the UAE where taxes are a lot lower, or a place like Cyprus where there's a non-dom regime and you've got a setup that works for you. These are of course factors that can influence, you know, your personal financial situation, again, allowing you to keep more of your money to save, invest, give away, spend, however you want to, whatever you want to do with your money, essentially. And finally, things like access to products or services. You may get access to a better quality education system or a more affordable education system, for example. The quality of food, fruit and veg might be higher in a particular country than your home country, for example. Having those better quality goods, services, products available to you, that can of course impact your quality of life as well. You know, better quality foods impact your health. If you have access to a better quality education or resources, legal advice, whatever it may be, you know, these are all things that can, you know, have a positive impact in your situation. To summarize, the environment that you move to and what's available and on offer within that environment can of course have a positive impact on your situation. Now, what's important to keep in mind, of course, is what you do in your environment and how you use it to your advantage or not. So this is where we get to the part where moving abroad is not necessarily the solution for everything. Because yes, it's all well and good having a lower cost of living, lower taxes, for example, that help you out from a personal financial situation. But if you don't have good personal finance habits to begin with, then no change in the cost of living or no change in taxes is going to improve your personal financial situation. You really need to have some of that knowledge, some of those good habits instilled in you before you move abroad, for example, to really leverage it. Because if you don't have those personal finance habits, you know, there's nothing stopping you from overspending, going into debt, inflating your lifestyle, for example, to the point where it just works out being the same as what it would have been back at home. Also, your work, your job, your profession, the professional environment you're in, for example. If you're in a particularly stressful field or stressful job, yes, work culture, attitudes to work might differ between countries, but at the end of the day, you control your attitude to work or which environment you choose to be in from a professional perspective. To give you an example, I've worked in finance for the past 8 or 9 years or so, and I've done that in the UK, in Spain, and in France. So for me to try and move abroad to Spain for a better work-life balance, being in finance, okay, might have some impact, but at the same time, finance at times can be quite a busy, quite an intense profession to be in. In reality, whilst the pace of life is not as rushed as it is in the UK, I don't really see the benefit of that as much as other people might, for example, in different professions, different fields, or different lines of work. So don't move abroad with the idea that work is suddenly going to become so much better just because you're in a different country, because the reality is it's probably not. And the only person that can really do something about that is you, either by accepting that the line of work, profession, company that you're in is the way it is, or you can change it, change company, change line of work, change profession, or even go solo, go freelance and be your own boss. Obviously, though, that can work out for better or for worse. Some people really make it work. They're able to find great work-life balance, have that flexibility. Others, it can be really stressful and they can end up working very long hours, even just doing their own thing with their own business. Living abroad as well won't suddenly fix tense relationships that you have, either with friends, with family, with whoever it may be. Of course, being distant from someone, it can ease that tension in the short term, but it's not necessarily going to fix a relationship or mend a tense situation simply by moving abroad. The problem might be ignored for a while. You might be able to not have it in your mind, but it's always going to be there if ever you go back to see that person or have some kind of involvement with someone who you haven't gotten on so well with or have a bit of a tense relationship with. Now, they can improve when there's a bit of personal action involved. Maybe being away from someone gives you time to reflect on issues you've had or tension that you've had in the past. Maybe living abroad changes your perspective on life, and it allows you to go back with a fresh perspective, and maybe you're able to mend things or resolve things that way. But the point I'm trying to make here is, simply moving away is not going to fix the situation. There is some kind of thought, personal reflection, and change in mindset that's required. And it brings me to the last point as well, nicely, which is, your general attitude towards life, towards situations and problems in general. Moving abroad is not going to fix that. If you're someone who just runs away every time there's a problem, you're going to be on the run forever, essentially. You're going to be jumping countries every couple of years, because as soon as something goes wrong, as soon as you don't like something, you're going to be looking for the next thing to fix your problem. Now, I've shared a bit about my reasons for leaving the UK in past videos. Of course, there were things about life in the UK that I didn't like, that were push factors, essentially, that made me want to leave. But at the same time, I moved to Spain and France as well, actually, both countries, because I had pull factors drawing me to both countries. There were things that made me want to move there. I wasn't just running away from the UK, I was going to a place that I knew I had something, things to look forward to. I had friends. I'd been to these countries, I liked the way of life, I liked the culture, could speak the languages. These were all things that facilitated that move and made it so that I wasn't just leaving the UK and running away from some place just for the sake of finding somewhere to go. I was very intentional in how I chose where to go and what my next steps were. And so I think Andrew Henderson from Nomad Capitalist, he said it in videos as well. He said, don't just run away from something, run towards something else. Because in finding a place that has factors that draw you to it, things that you like about it, it shows a certain level of intentionality in your decision making and where you're going. You know what you want and you know what you're looking for. It's not just a case of running away to wherever is easiest to go or wherever looks appealing in the moment. Now, if you're moving abroad because you really love a certain place, certain country, whatever, you got a really strong emotional attachment to it, that's a bit different, I think. That's not necessarily what I'm referring to in this video. What I'm referring to in this video is more, if you're disenchanted with where you're living right now and you're looking for some place to go. This is more what I'm referring to here. So the exercise I would do is the following. The first question I would ask is, what are the things that I can change in my life right now without moving abroad, in the country I'm living? What things can I change to make my life better today? Maybe it's really simple steps like changing your exercise or diet habits, and that can really improve your quality of life. Maybe if it's personal finance related, maybe there's some expenses that you can cut back on. You can find new ways to make money. Maybe there's tax incentives or things at home that you weren't aware of or didn't know about that can actually make your situation much better, and improve in that sense. And then from that, you can ask yourself questions like, are there factors where I'm living right now that I can't change, that are really holding me back, and that are stopping me from being where I want to be? And ask yourself, like, if you could change these things, would you stay where you are still, or would you move abroad? Because if really there's circumstances or situations or facts about life back at home that are just making it, really difficult for you, and it's really making you feel like this isn't the place for you, then it's time to start thinking about, okay, where can you go? When you're thinking about where you can go, think about how can a certain destination, wherever it is that you have on your mind, how can it solve those problems for you? Is it going to make life better? Is it really where you want to live as well? I have to duck here because I'm a bit tall under these trees. But is it really going to fix your problems? And are you going to be able to adapt to life in that new country? Is it going to be everything you expect? Do you really feel drawn to that country? Because again, if it's a case of just running away from one country to another because you think it's a fix in the short term, then you're probably going to be on the run for a long time, and you're probably not going to achieve any significant change. You're probably not going to achieve what you're looking for in moving abroad. And if you stayed up to this point in the video and you are really thinking about moving abroad, or you want to go through that exercise, think about where might be a good place for you to move, then do check out my Global Financial Freedom course. I'll put the link in the video description for you. It's a very comprehensive course. It covers a lot of different areas, such as how to create new revenue streams, diversify your wealth globally, optimize your taxes, as well as giving you a clear assessment of different possible destinations that you can relocate to start a new life. You can buy it either on a rolling monthly subscription basis, or you can pay a one-time fee for lifetime access as well. And I really believe that not just the information in the video, but the practical exercises and resources that are included in this course will give you the help that you need to figure out your next steps and what is the right thing for you to do next. So with that, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you found it interesting and informative. Leave a comment and let me know, if you moved abroad, what were some of the reasons why you moved abroad, and what were some of the reasons why you chose the country that you then moved to. And if you like this video and you want to see a bit more content related to Spain or life abroad in general, then be sure to check out these two videos here. Next time, I'll see you on the next one, and let's get this money.